Welcome back to the show. We got a great one lined up. U.S. Treasury primes Ripple to be the next Federal Reserve. DOGE staffer leaks new system. XRP 20 or 70 bucks. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. Make sure you give us a follow on X, YouTube, and digperspectives.com, ladies and gentlemen, and click that join button to catch us right underneath the title inside the Freedom Zone today. We're going to talk about that DOGE staffer and the leak of a new system, is it? Oh, wait till you hear it. And then we're going to go into tariffs. Are they working? Well, you're going to find out today. Let's take a look at this right now. Current market cap, $2.96 trillion market cap for crypto. The market is up 0.9%. We welcome it. Bitcoin, 87,200 plus, 2,000 plus for Ethereum. XRP to number 4 spots, $2.45. We're up 1.9 on the 24. We're up 4.9 on the 7-day, much like the rest of the market. Let's take a look at the range of price, ranging between 239 and 247. Head on a swivel. XRP's bouncing around a little bit today. You're going to love what the technical analysts are saying before we get out of here. XRP Las Vegas, baby. The days are closing in. I'm telling you right now, how many days left? 66 days left, ladies and gentlemen. Get your tickets, see and meet White House Crypto Council Summit members, Brad Garlinghouse, Chris Giancarlo, SEC Summit member, Dr. Chris Brummer, founder of Blueprint and DC FinTech Week. Oh, I'm telling you what. So many things going on. Get your ticket, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, don't fool around. Make the investment in yourself. I trust you are going to have a phenomenal time. There's no question about it. Everyone there loves XRP and everyone there wants to talk about it. And I love that too. But let me tell you something else. Making the investment in yourself means you are going to learn things at this conference. You are going to have the chance to engage with people in breakout rooms about different companies and products that they're selling. You're going to be able to watch somebody pitch the best idea that they have about being able to win $25,000 to the best pitch by a developer or a builder, and so many other things. I'm telling you, this is a remarkable conference, and I can say that because I'm just putting it together. It's all the other people that are going to be there and the information that they're going to share with you that's going to make it so great. So make sure you get your ticket. We all know, and so does Michael Saylor, because Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy buys another 6,911 Bitcoin for $584 million. And they now hold over 500,000 Bitcoin, which is more than 2% of the entire float of Bitcoin. So we all know, and so does Michael Saylor, there is no immaculate conception. I will not tolerate it in front of anyone who says it to me. I don't care their level of Congress or otherwise. There is zero immaculate conception. Now, I'll say it the way my father used to say it. If you need me to be the idiot in the conversation, you're going to have trouble with me every time. Now, I hope Bitcoin holders make a fortune, but there is a lie underpinning this asset, and it cannot be disputed. Remember, while this guy is buying up Bitcoin like a madman, the Department of Homeland Security interviewed the 4 Satoshis because there is no immaculate conception. And then the agent from the Department of Homeland Security, Rana Sayad, reported on it to the SEC and the CFTC at the time. This is not a libertarian movement. As far as I'm concerned, this is a government psyop. Happy Monday, and there's the link to prove that Rana Sayad interviewed the 4 Satoshis. You can check it out for yourself. Uphold hit us with this over the weekend. Want to guess what happens when demand outpaces supply? Yeah, and it looks like a huge X to me. I love it. I said, oh, now Uphold went and done it. Look what they did. Yeah, they know what's coming. I floated over the weekend. How will the U.S. government acquire crypto assets like Bitcoin and XRP without costing the taxpayer money? Well, there was a gentleman named Alvarez on TikTok who floated the idea that they could purchase U.S. Treasury bonds and just come out with a Bitcoin US Treasury bond and an XRP US Treasury bond and let people buy the bonds that mature in 10 or 20 years. And then they could acquire the Bitcoin without costing the taxpayer a dime. Absolutely, you could. There's other ways you could do it too. But that is one of the ways. They could certainly do it if they wanted to. We'll see what happens. Matt Hogan says, I can't stop thinking about this quote from U.S. Secretary Treasurer Scott Bessent. He said, we are going to keep the U.S. the dominant reserve currency in the world, and we will use stable coins to do that. Matt says, however big you think stable coins assets under management will get, you're probably thinking too small. So the question becomes, what does the rest of crypto market look like if stablecoin asset under management is multiple trillions? Yeah. By the way, Matt Hogan's going to be on stage for Bitwise as well at XRP Las Vegas, along with Stephen McClurg from Canary Capital, talking about the ETFs that may be actually live and rolling by that time we hit that stage. Chad Steingraber, in the same conversation, talking about stablecoins, reminds everybody in the Genius Act, and we're going to do that with stablecoins backed 1-to-1 with the US dollar sitting in a reserve transparent bank account. Real USD meets all federal requirements. He shares this, maintain a 1-to-1 reserve, and publicly disclose their composition, which is something Tether has not been willing to do. And for anybody that says, well, Tether's using Cantor Fitzgerald for their reserves. Yes, they are, for their treasury holdings. But Tether has a lot of other assets like Bitcoin than just treasuries backing their Tether dollar. So that is the problem. And Tether is trying to get compliant now that they can see the writing on the wall. The question is it a day too late? There are big plans for the real USD. Take a listen to Brad Garlinghouse from Ripple say exactly how big.
If you think about the next forefront of stablecoins, now that the U.S. is getting toward clarity, what's possible?
Well, again, I think we're underestimating how big that might get. You know, today that market's about $230 billion. So I think some smart people think that may go up 10x in the next 5 years. I think that's probably right. I mean, the two leading players in Tether as well as USDC are both, I think, poised to do well in that market. Ripple launched our own stablecoin at the end of last year. That's already ahead of our own internal forecasts in terms of where we are at this point in the year. Still, we're small, but the goal is by the end of the year for RLUSD, Ripple stablecoin, to be one of the top 5 in the market by the end of the year. And I think the whole market's going to grow dramatically over this year.
So
one of the top 5 in the market by the end of the year. Oh, okay. Well, apparently Brad knows something that we don't, doesn't he? What about the idea of the real USD being a top 5 stablecoin by the end of the year? You know, one of the things that I've floated and we've talked about here is how will the U.S. government acquire these digital assets? Are you mean to tell me that they're just going to sit back and the only way that they acquire these digital assets in a strategic reserve or a stockpile is through forfeiture? We're talking about digital assets like XRP that are important to the new financial system and monetary system because of their layer ones. And you're telling me that the only way that they're going to acquire these assets is through forfeiture? Oh, I don't think so. For years, we've been talking about the Fed coin report that was written in part by David Andofato from the St. Louis Fed, where the president validates the Fed coin approach when he announced early on about fostering stablecoin digital tokens that are pegged to the US dollar. Well, this is back in November of 24. And now that he's president, he is absolutely moving at a breakneck pace to usher in a new monetary financial system using distributed ledger technology and digital assets. It is obvious to me. And I'm pretty sure everybody else as well. He says it right here. And then I go back to the understanding of the FedCoin report. J.P. Koning and David Endolfado wrote this part. I think the door is officially open. Look, let's understand, we've all had questions about the escrow for XRP. What happens to the escrow for XRP? Well, a couple things I think right off the gate is one, Ripple could become systemically important and they don't need to take the escrow away from Ripple, because if they make them systemically important, they can just use them like a puppet master and tell Ripple what to do with the escrow. Or they could choose to buy the escrow. Maybe they've negotiated that they're going to take the escrow from the SEC case. I don't know the final result of it, but let's just run through a one-to-one, okay? Let's say instead of them purchasing the escrow or XRP escrow for $1,000 or $10,000 per coin, let's forget all of that. Let's forget all of that grandiose numbers for a second for the sake of just conversation. And let's say $2.45, which it is today, right? Where are we at right now? $2.45. So let's say we're at the $2.45 mark. And the U.S. government wants that escrow. Let's say that they just pay $2.45 for the escrow. And whatever the price is next month, that's what they pay for it. They just pay fair market value each month, whatever the going rate is, the U.S. Treasury buys it. And then they issue to Ripple U.S. Treasuries. Maybe they peg it to a price that's not fair market value. But just for this conversation, let's just talk about it at fair market value. Then they would issue U.S. Treasuries to Ripple. Well, there are billions of XRP, 40 plus billion, still in escrow. So at $2.45, you're talking a lot of billions in U.S. Treasuries. What would Ripple do with all of that? Well, I think they would use those treasuries as a giant escrow to continue to mint real USD for the people that need it, so to be one of the top 5 stable coins by the end of this year, according to Brad Garlinghouse. Or bring the price back into this. Maybe they need XRP to be $50 in order to move forward. Why would they need it to be $50? Well, based on the utility and liquidity and formula on the network, maybe that's what the informed price should be. Maybe it needs to be $200. I don't know. I'm speculating, but it's fun. I can tell you that, because I do believe that XRP is designed to be used in this capacity in some shape, way, or form. And it gets interesting to me because when you factor in the Fort Knox audit that's coming, that gold may be there. The real question is, how many times has that gold been oversold? How many times has each bar of gold in there been oversold? If it's 3 times, then gold needs to be $9,000 just to handle that problem. But if gold goes up because of revaluing it, you've just shoved the dollar through the floor. Unless you've come up with a way to introduce a new dollar that's backed by new assets like commodities. How would you do that? Well, you would buy the XRP escrow, confiscate it, take it some shape, way, or form, and you could price set it too. And they could control this like the interest rate. They could purchase XRP every month at whatever price they feel necessary and set the price for the market and issue bonds to Ripple, allowing them to become the next Federal Reserve, because they have so many bonds issued to them every month that the price comes out that you're slowly now priming the pump for Ripple to become the new Federal Reserve, issuing these new bond issuance and taking the XRP from them, for which represents all the value of the tokenized world that now underpins the dollar. What are we talking about here, right? We're not talking about some ridiculous notion of immaculate conception when we know that a government agency's already interviewed the 4 people that made Bitcoin. No. What we're talking about is a real scenario put together by someone from the St. Louis Fed and J.P. Koenig. How about Bob Way, to his point, and everything I've said to you today? In 2023, XRP makes a great commodity currency and can serve as a very useful bridge when completing cross-currency payments. But it isn't the last currency the world will ever need. Absolutely agree with this. In fact, it's designed to complement the rest of the money and value of the world. That's the beauty of it. And I do think it's a great commodity currency. I do believe that you could put a certain amount of reserves of several different commodities from different sectors of the economy and make it the hardest thing to ever crash unless you ended the world physically. Now, let's usher in for conversation quickly here. We had the SWIFT rumor that got debunked by Watcher Guru. They posted it everywhere, and within 1 minute, they had the fastest recovery of any hacked account that I've ever seen in the history of my life on social media. I happen to agree with Phil Spence here. The recovery time is so fishy indeed. Typically, accounts are not recovered that fast. I say exactly. No one gets hacked and gets their account back that fast. Feels like a press release that went out too soon. And if that's the case, all of this would make a lot of sense, because they would need to get the dollar really, really positioned perfectly for the entire financial system to be able to use it. And would they want to use a tether dollar? Or would they want to use a real USD, USDC, where they know it's been highly compliant from day one? Look, it's not a guess to understand that Ripple Labs could also play major roles when it comes to international trade ecosystem. This is acknowledged by SWIFT themselves. We're talking about, when could this go down? Vincent Van Code put out a great thread here. He wants to chime in on the SWIFT versus Ripple debate. To be clear, this is purely speculative based on observation, no insider information here. Me either, Vincent. But you know what? Doesn't stop us from using our brains to see what writing we may be able to see on the wall. And speculation is good as long as you keep track of it. Where the real rubber meets the road and where the speculation begins, we can begin to rule out some of these scenarios. But interestingly enough, over the last 7 years of my life, I've never been able to rule out this idea of all this stuff we have talked about today. In fact, it looks more relevant today than it did when I was talking about it 7 years ago. They talk about the contrast of RippleNet here. It talks about how it could certainly work to facilitate, things that need to do for stable coins transfer, actual value across borders instantly. We know RippleNet, by the way, does way more than SWIFT ever could, because SWIFT just moves messages and data. It doesn't move value, but Ripple can. SWIFT has been the cornerstone of U.S. financial dominance, enabling tools like sanctions, access controls to global finance. Its infrastructure has underpinned geopolitical leverage for decades, arguably more effectively than military force, no question. But there's a very real possibility that SWIFT will upgrade its back end to integrate or adopt DLT. This wouldn't simply be about issuing a digital asset USD. It would require a blockchain network that is cross-border optimized, liquid, and scalable. That's a tall order. He goes on to say, if I were leading Ripple, I have positioned the company to do two things simultaneously: build a product that competes directly with SWIFT, ensure compatibility and potential integration with SWIFT's infrastructure, because this is how major corporate institutions' moves unfold. He's exactly right here. You can't just have an idea. You have to have a product that does something. You don't pitch SWIFT a partnership up front. They'd simply say, we'll build it ourselves. Exactly right. Instead, you build traction, become a credible threat, and then they have incentive to collaborate. This is called business pressure and business incentive. This is exactly right. Ripple's playbook likely looks something like this: build a robust alternative network, RippleNet, onboard banks, remittance firms, and governments, become a systemic threat to SWIFT notices, initiate collaboration on parallel development paths. Privately, a more strategic narrative may have unfolded. Ripple likely approached major institutions, including SWIFT, early on to purpose DLT collaboration. And I think that's where it is now. The U.S. government's focused on maintaining USD dominance may have hit a pause to evaluate implications. Ripple potentially pitched a USD-backed stablecoin, Real USD, while promoting XRP as a neutral bridge asset. Regulatory pressure followed, possibly to avoid the appearance of U.S. government favoritism. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Ripple and Swift, or RippleNet compatible entities, kept building. Political shifts delayed or accelerated the timeline. Depending on who's in office, the SEC lawsuit against Ripple ends. A public announcement may still be pending. Again, this is hypothetical, but worth considering. Deals and integrations at this scale take 5 to 10 years to materialize. If Ripple and Swift are indeed working together, we may only just be seeing the beginning of what's to come, and we may also be at the back end of that 3 to 5 year agreement. Meanwhile, Barry C out here, shout out to you, Barry. XRP to $5 to $10 conservative and realistic for this alt season. XRP to $20 to $50 is achievable, but we will need a BlackRock XRP ETF combined with an alt season to see this. He goes on to say XRP to $100 is achievable in 25 if we see banks say they'll start using crypto, blockchain, and XRP. XRP to $1,000 is realistic if we see a utility run, if we see mass adoption of XRP into existing financial frameworks, if we see XRP utilized and adopted into banks and financial institutions around the world. I think this is great in laying out, the level of adoption that needs to happen to see each level take off. Eggrad Crypto says, it's this simple, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the fractal from 2017, 2018. Here's what we've witnessed so far previously for ourselves. And here's where we are with that fractal. And if we see a repeat, it's $27 up to $38 here. This is insane. And if we hit the 1.888, we could see $69, $70. Again, I think Barry C laid it out nice. It'll depend on how much and how hard the institutional financial side runs into this technology. How quickly do they flip the switch, right? Or do they continue to phase things in a level of percentages? It's so exciting, and it's so great to know that we're all here together. Look, we're going into the Freedom Zone. You're not going to want to miss it today. DOGE staffer leaks the new system. I tell you, this falls in line with what we've talked about. I hope you will join us. Hit that join button or click the more description box and join us on Patreon, wherever you choose. Listen, every single day you get every video with 0 Google ads. It's worth the price of admission because it's less than the cost of a cup of coffee per month. 12 cups of coffee for the year. That's all this is. I'll see you inside. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. Come on in. All right.